Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you again so much for joining us here at CCSC. 100 days without releasing a video, and this video is dedicated to all 463 of you who are still subscribed. We lost a lot of people during our hiatus. I apologize for the brief break, but let's get right into today's video. Thank you very much for joining us here at CCSC. Please like, share, and subscribe. So to start today's video, we're going to do a brief recap of a few things that we've done off camera. As you can see, over here in Hillside area, we've removed a lot. We've got a lot to discuss, but let's start in Garland Square. We added another road coming off of Garland Square. This road down here will be another little residential area right close to the water. All of this land was moved off camera, so whenever we hit play, we will try and remember to come over here and watch this typhoon that's going to happen afterwards. We have also separated Meadow Square. This whole district over here was just too big. All of this was Meadow Square. So we've separated Meadow Square, and if we go to our tools here, you can see Meadow Square is everything now on this southern end. All of this area was just too big to cover with Meadow Square once we adjust Hillside Hills. So we've separated it to Ivy Hills, Meadow Square, and Hillside Hills, and you can see the exits to the highway is kind of the border lines. You know, that's kind of in the middle. So Hillside Hills, we have removed most of the industry over in this area. We have removed all of the recycling centers. We have relocated them. We're waiting on this thing to empty, but we need to address a few more things. Then we can remove the rest of the polluting industry in this area and work on Hillside Hills, finishing this entire residential area over here. We've relocated the recycling centers up to this hill over here on this new tile that we've purchased. As you can see from our areas, we have now purchased this tile here. We've got this bridge going across. There's a lot of oil here. There's a lot of oil here. And there's a lot of farmland down here, but as you can see, we need no industry. We have some residential demand, a little bit of office demand, but we need to balance our demand before we attack any of this industry. We will eventually remove all of this oil by using a 5-star oil industry. This is the exit ramp. It's just a nice, simple little, stop sign on the highway. If you go to inspector tool, you can go to intersections and you can see it's just stop signs. So the highway continues to move. It's just stop signs for the traffic coming on and off the highway. Still dangerous, not the greatest setup, but it is what it is, and it also has to stop here for that. But there's 4 recycling centers down there. They're trying to balance out the garbage removing from this area and keeping up with the population. I don't think they can. We might have to add a few more things, maybe an incinerator. Nonetheless, we need some money because I've spent all the money off camera. So before we do anything with Highland Hills, we have to hit play. But let's go ahead and discuss real quick. We've also added some high schools to the area. If we go up to our education tab, high schools. We've added a new high school. We've added 3 new high schools. We've added a new high school in Garland Square. They did not have a high school, so there is their high school. We added a new high school in Emerson over here on the end of this street next to the parks. And we've also added a new high school in Meadow Square. So we've got one down here now. This is way more than we need. So all 3 of those are dark, and that's because they haven't started yet. So that one has started, but nonetheless, that's way more than we need. We have another high school here. You can see our capacity is... it hasn't reset, but I've added 3 high schools to 1, so we have 4,000 capacity and only 1,500 eligible. It's way more than we need. It's complete overkill, but in this episode we're planning on growing our population, so that's what we've gone ahead and done. Speaking of growing our population, the next thing that we need to answer are water pumps, and we've added another water pump here to supply our town with water. However, we need to relocate these underwater like we have in the past with our removal pumps. If you go to our info views, we can go down to our terrain height, and you can see we've added a canal and put our exiting wastewater here so that it goes downriver, and you can just see a little bit of brown. We need to do the same thing, but we need to do that about here with our pump stations. You don't want them down water from your exit sewage stations for obvious reasons. Now let's go ahead and hit play. We'll go over here and we're gonna go ahead and hit play. We're gonna bump this up to 3 times speed just for a second. See how the water moves. If it moves that much, it might be okay. You can see all that's flooded already. We should be all right though. It shouldn't go past what is the new area. And then once that balances out, you can see, although I've leveled terrain, you can see it's completely unlevel. So once that balances out, we can re-level the terrain and then re-add the road. We'll have to delete the road because it'll be below the train. You can see we have neglected some issues over here. Electricity needs to be connected. Let's go ahead and do that there. And that'll take care of that entire area. We have some garbage problems, but that is expected. You can see Copper Heights just cleaned out. That's fine. So what is the garbage problem over here? Just no one has been there in a while. Fair enough. The other things that we need to address is I kind of want to close out this entire tile. This is our first tile that we ever purchased, this tile here. I kind of want to close out this tile, and what I mean by close out is do all of the finishing work. Go through and do the nitpicky, gritty little work that you have to do by adding a bunch of trees to make it look realistic, to make it look good. All of that detail work is boring and very necessary. We will do that on this episode, and we'll maybe either skip it or do very fast forward. Nonetheless, so we had our funds up quite a bit. However, huge oversight. I started detailing work and forgot to back out and look at the city. This never had power or water. We're going to go ahead and hit play again, and hopefully this is enough power with these 3 little turbines over here. They didn't have power or water. The entire city is getting filled with garbage. I'm over here planting trees. We now have some water pipe. We had about $70,000, but the water pipe, as you can see here, this was about $5,000, this was about $3,000. Just that alone was pretty expensive. Adding the wind turbines is $6-7 each. I think 6. Yeah. Nonetheless, I think this should be enough electricity. They seem to be fine now, and unfortunately, our city was down on electricity too, so we bumped the budget up. We need to connect these two, but that's going to be very expensive. I wanted to come back on camera before I do any more work. We'll go ahead and just run this across just to get an idea of how much. That's $6,000 right there. So if we don't have to do that, I don't necessarily want to do that quite yet. We'll try and connect it a little bit later down the line. We'll get back into the episode in a little bit. We're trying to wait for this garbage to come up. We've added come down, I should say. We've added an incineration plant over here. We have one of those now, and we're going to go ahead and add another recycling center. And all of this is temporary. We will move all this again, but until you get all 9 tiles in your city, it's kind of hard to exactly figure out where the garbage is going to go. And actually, we'll probably go to a DLC garbage system later. But nonetheless, we still have garbage problems here. No one's come to pick up the garbage. I don't understand the problem, and I don't think that it's because of the road situation, but we can remove this building and see if that helps. We'll go ahead and try it. No, that didn't move it anywhere. So yeah, I don't think it's a road situation. Not sure why no one's picking up the garbage over there. As you can see, we have these two farmland areas. They're not working. And if you click on them, it says not enough natural resources. The 2 natural resources for a farmland plot is sun and water, and I guess proper land care. I don't know if it's not on the road exactly, I'm not sure, but we're going to move those later in the episode. We're going to remodel this entire area as part of our finalizing this entire area. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and go to this view so we don't see these ugly trash can symbols everywhere. We've added some trees all along this walkway here. All of these are just the big pine trees, or whatever they're called in this game. We can go ahead and look. I wanted to put a few more back there, forgot about that. Let's go ahead and go, and these are the conifers. We've also added a lot of the oaks and some of the tree with leaves. All of those are kind of in this area. So we've completely filled in this area over here. We've completely filled in all by the buildings. We've done a lot of detail work off camera here. All we've done though are these 3 little blocks. So we've filled in a lot of this. Not enough. We need to fill in a little bit more, but maybe not. I kind of want to keep this kind of open back here because the buildings provide shade opposed to the trees providing shade. Now this area we went all out. We have filled in all of this with a whole bunch of trees, and a lot of work in detailing is tree lines, and so all of this has to be done manually. They're not the straightest. I shouldn't advertise that one as a good tree line, but all of this had to be done manually, and it's kind of a pain going in a row and hitting 1, 1, 1, 1, hitting it over and over. Whenever you have the computer game, You can obviously just do a line of trees, but us players on console have to deal with what we have to deal with. Nonetheless, added a bunch of trees over here, added a bunch of trees over here. All of this looks a lot nicer, a lot better. We filled in this area. No, we haven't filled in this area all that much. We did add a few trees in this area. This area we haven't touched. This is the natural way that it was, either how the game had the trees or maybe I added a few. But we're going to go through and finish this one real quick with just fast forward just to show you how it works. And as you can see, it's kind of just a pain of doing lines of trees. We did add a little bit more, I think, than I would like back here. We might remove a little bit of this, and you can just click on any one of these, go up to this tool, turn down the density, and let's just hit B and remove a few. And of course it removed the line and not the clump of trees over here. So then you can go in and remove just a couple individually and clean it up just a bit. No problem though, and then make it kind of look natural, and then that fills in that back area a lot more. You don't want it to be too heavily wooded, but also by filling in this back area, whenever someone is walking down this back little path over here, let's go ahead and go for a walk. When someone's walking down this back little path back here, they don't necessarily stare at buildings the entire time. They can kind of look at trees and feel more in nature, and in a city that's kind of important. So exiting out of that view, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit more work off camera. I think we're going to add some residential area right here along this river. We can go ahead and do that now before we exit. We're going to add some high density over here, but again, I don't want too much. So we're just going to add just a few more high density residential areas. We will be moving this university, and we'll probably add a couple more high density residential areas as well. We now need to move these water pumps immediately. Because they will complain about the noise and get noise sick very soon. Trash looks like it's starting to get a little bit better, but it is still pretty bad, and in the farmland I don't know what's going on with that. So let's go ahead and build our canal first. And again, if you did not watch the last time that we did this, we want to do a wide canal, and I think wide medium. So if you did not watch the last time that we did this, you need to do this away from any kind of population getting drowned downriver. So I believe that did that, correct? Info views, let's go ahead and go to our terrain height. Anything downriver is going to get swollen up. You see this? Giant tidal wave from land being moved around. If any settlement or any kind of housing or anything downriver from whenever you do something like this, it will all get drowned. Everyone will die. You'll have nothing but abandoned buildings everywhere. You need to be careful. That's why we did that a little bit down from there. Now, we'll go ahead and wait for this tidal wave to move downriver, and then we can relocate our water pumps. So our water pumps need water lines. So let's pause the game real quick. Let's relocate these. Oh, yeah, I don't care what it's called. Let's relocate these down here. And can we yet? Oh, there it is. Yes, yes we can. We can go ahead and hit play again. That should show us the water line has connected. Once it turns blue. Now we need to get power to it probably. Let's go ahead and see our power. Yep. So we'll go ahead and run a short water line or short power line up to the back. And all of this is temporary as far as the power lines. We will figure out a better system to run power to these later, and those are probably going to be water turbines that are in the water. Nonetheless, we'll deal with that later. You can see this big tidal wave is actually moving up water. Now let's go ahead and level off this terrain, and we can get back to adding some more residential area. Oh, I don't want to level too much. We kind of want to slope. Plenty. You can see it's still a little slanted, but that's what we want. We want a slight little slope. Do we want to do... We could do some apartment buildings down here. That wouldn't look too bad. So already that has filled in quite a bit. We're getting a lot of apartments built down there. We have lost something up here, and that will replace itself with another business area. We need to run some water lines, of course. And that should supply everything there. Our trash is cleaned up. We're doing good on trash. Garbage removal is working. Pollution has already moved massively over to here. Let's go ahead and check our pollution area over here. We need to get this thing drained before we can do anything. We can't even move it until it's drained. So we've still got 71%. So since that is still polluting, we might as well keep these jobs here, and they are still polluting. So we'll focus on something else other than hillside hills in this area. And let's go ahead and get back to doing a little bit more detail work so that we can exit out of this entire tile. So we've added quite a few trees in this little area over here, just this southern pocket. We've added a bunch of trees on the side, and to kind of blend everything in, we added a bunch of trees over here, but to kind of blend everything in, we've added little pockets of kind of small areas of trees, small areas of woods, with some moss and vegetation around it, all 3 or 4 different types of trees, but little pockets of vegetation over here and over here to kind of make it look a little bit more natural and a little bit more wooden. And then to expand on those pockets, you add a bunch of trees on the outside to kind of just make everything flow a little bit better. You can see we have a bunch of like the conifers and pines and stuff like that down here. This area kind of moves more into these tall trees. It's kind of best to blend your neighborhoods together. So over in this area, now that we have Meadow Square kind of done, the other side of Meadow Square, if we're calling this north, the western side of Meadow Square. Over in this park, we're going to add a little bit more trees, and what we're kind of going with over here is, not that, where are these at? Are these here. Kind of like this and like this. No, my apologies, this and this one. Those are kind of the trees that have taken over this area, and it's kind of what was naturally in the terrain. So we're going to add a few of these down just to expand this park, but we don't want to add too many because these are very tall. Then we're going to go with a few of these. These are a little bit smaller, and we're not necessarily doing tree lines or anything like that. We're just kind of plopping some down. See if we can fit one up here. That would look good. Have a couple down this line here, right next to the park path, and maybe one down here. And we'll get a couple on this line here to kind of blend in the park with the actual nature area, so you don't really notice where the park ends and where the park actually begins, because the park is actually this area over here where you can't build. All of this area is just regular terrain. However, now it looks like a giant park. It's got park paths all the way through it. So we filled all this in. All this was kind of filled in before. I think we're pretty much done with filling in. I want to do a little bit of landscaping work on this highway exit here, and then we'll come right back. And we finished the area back here. We added a few more trees. We also completed the area that I was talking about with our highway interchange here. We've added a bunch of rocks, a few trees. We've added some bushes along the side here, just on the inner lining of the highway, just to kind of make it look a little bit more natural, a little bit more scenic. We haven't added anything in this area because this is all still farmland. We might have some big farms coming off here. I'm not sure exactly. We are going to redesign this and get it to minimize in size and get it a little bit away from the highway. We'll probably do that off camera because that's going to be a lot of work. Nonetheless, we finished the highway. We added a few rocks on this little overpass here. I kind of like the way the rock exposure is looking on the left side, kind of like it was more of a tall hill, although it was a completely sloped in terrain. Kind of just beautify the area, make it look a little bit nicer, make it look a little bit more natural, which is odd because you're actually adding stuff to make it look more natural. Nonetheless, we can look back at our city. We still have the issues there with our farmland. We have still garbage problems over there. We've got a noise complaint over here, but we've pretty much added all the trees and everything that we can. We really can't do anything else other than destroy the property and add more trees there. You can see the hospital's picking them up, but they keep getting noise sick over there, unfortunately. It might just be a little bit too close. We can't really add any more trees, but I really like the way this looks. Everything looks nice, natural, easy. It looks completed. It looks finished, and I believe that it is. I want to come over here and check out our high density residential that we added over here. We can probably add a couple more. But that looks good. But I think that we are pretty much done doing detail work on this first tile that we bought. We need to finish our farmland. However, as you can see, we're at 10,000. We're still growing slightly. We have a little bit of demand for residential. We'll add a few more residential areas. And now we're not growing. Nonetheless, we have a little commercial demand. We have no industry. We're just a very balanced city at this point, and we have been for quite a while. We are raising funds. We're up to $250,000. $250,000 isn't bad for the time that we've played. We'll go ahead and go off camera. We'll do a little bit of remodeling, but first I want to discuss two different ways that you can cover this area here. So this is our industrial area. The painting tool. You can, as you can see, you can separate the industries area. So you can run this all the way up here. You can take this, extend it all the way down here, and then fill it in. Yep. Did that do it right? Yes. Fill that in. That's now Bluebird Pastures. You can do that option, or you can build an entire separate farmland over there and get it up to 5 stars as well. However, I want to move this polluting... You shouldn't have a slaughterhouse next to office buildings and stuff like that. I want to move all of this over to this area over here by the train station because it makes more sense. That's where it should be. Over by this poorer area with gravel roads, that's where the slaughterhouse should be. It shouldn't be in the middle of a nice area like this. So I think we are going to just extend this zone all the way over here and start to relocate. We'll just have a giant 5-star industry opposed to 2 5-star industries for our farmland. I would like to remove all of this, and then that will give us a lot more space to add some office buildings or residential. All of this back here could be office or residential. We'll go ahead and go off camera. We're going to start doing a little bit of work with this farmland, and we'll pick it up in a minute. And we have now expanded our farmland area to this zone up here. Bluebird Pastures now expands all the way up here. We have pre-prepped a little bit of the area, and we've moved those 2 farm plots as I mentioned previously, and you can see they are working fine now. If we go ahead and hit play, there's no problems with natural resources. So both of those will be moved. We have pre-prepped the area, but we're going to go ahead and save that for the next episode. We have gone a year in timeline. We've gained 1,000 citizens to our fair city, and we've gained $328,000. Not bad for a day's work at all. We'll save the farmland relocation for the next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us here at CCSC. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.